Welcome to Home Biz Tax Talk. My name is Lysandra Everett. I am the Home Biz Tax Lady, where I help home business owners win the tax game. Home Biz Tax Talk airs Monday through Friday, 9 o'clock-ish. And when you tune into my show, you're going to hear about topics that are important to the home business community. But today, though, I want to take a look at the carrier deal. Now, this is not something that's necessarily geared towards the home business community, but I want to share this because we've got a whole thing with the tax reform going on, right? And so I wanted to go back and take a look at this. Thank God for Facebook Memories, because Facebook Memories brought this up for me that I talked about this last year. So I decided to do a little bit of research and see what actually happened. So let's go back to December 2016 when Carrier, the HVAC manufacturers were, they had announced that they were moving their factory to Mexico, okay? And so then President-elect Trump, was saying, hey, I'm gonna go in and I'm gonna make this great deal and we're gonna save these jobs. So they got a $7 million, I wanna make sure I have that right. They got a $7 million tax incentive package, right? For them to stay in Indiana for up to 10 years. And so, everybody was like, whoo, we're saved. The Messiah has come and all of this stuff. And so what was promised was that the 1,100 jobs was going to be a minimum amount of jobs and that there was going to be more than that. Okay. So the agreement said that United Technologies Corp, which owns Carrier, will continue to deploy at least 1,069 people at the Indianapolis plant for 10 years in exchange for up to $7 million in incentives. The company had also promised to invest $16 million in the facility. Now, let's talk about what really happened. So first of all, yes, they still moved their plant to Mexico. All right, they really did. So here's the deal. Now, out of those 1,069 jobs, right, because the concern was the factory workers, like all of these factory workers were then going to be unemployed, but only about 730 of those jobs were actually at stake here, okay? The rest of them were engineering and technical jobs. Those were not meant to be on the chopping block anyway, okay? So those jobs were not going away. So what happened is that starting in July of 2017, that 300 and some odd people got laid off, all right? And then come January 11th, the rest of the people are going to get laid off. I think another 275 or something are going to get laid off. Okay, so they still got these tax incentives. They still kept their word of employing almost 1,100 people, but those 1,100 people were not the factory workers that everybody was concerned about. The majority of those jobs that they were, those factory jobs still went away, right? They said they were going to employ 1,069 people. They did not say they were going to employ 1,069 factory workers. And I want to point this out because we need to stop listening to the hype and listen to what is being said, okay? What was said was, we promised to employ 1,069 workers. They did not specify factory workers. So they went to, so they still, there are a lot of people have lost their jobs and they're still going to lose their jobs come January 11th. Those jobs were slated to be laid off December 22nd, but they decided to delay that to January 11th. Okay. So now here we are, right? So then what happened? So now you've got these technological jobs, and you guys still got a lot of people that lost their jobs with these factories, even though, people felt like, and let me say this before I make this next statement. This is not an anti-Trump message. This is not a political message. This is just simply sharing the facts of what happened, okay? So President Trump went to the Carrier factory. He was in with all of these factory workers and telling them, I'm going to keep your job. I'm going to make this deal, this great deal that you're going to keep your job. Well, that's not what happened. The people that were slated to lose their jobs still lost their jobs. The people, they had the like I said, the technology, the engineering people, they weren't going to lose their jobs anyway. Okay. And so now here's the other thing that you guys, because you guys really got to pay attention to. And I say this all the time, and I'm going to get to my point in a minute. Okay. So then the United Technologies CEO Greg Hayes told CNBC that money that that $16 million that they're going to invest would go towards more automation in the factory and ultimately would result in fewer jobs. Okay. So, as much as I have repeated this, and I had somebody really debate me on this, I was on a talk show and somebody debated me about this with this trickle down economics, which is, give corporations more money to work with, and then they're going to hire more people. That is not what has happened historically. It's not what's happened recently, and it's not what's going to happen in the future. So right now with tax reform, we're going to lower the corporate rate, right? We're going to lower the corporate rate to 20, perhaps 22%, whatever that number is going to look like. It's going to be hecka less than 35%. So we're going to lower that tax rate. We're also going to offer a one-time, really low, bring your money back home tax rate, meaning that for corporations that have money that's sitting in overseas areas, bring that money back to the U.S. for a really low rate, one-time rate. You have this one-time incentive to do that, right? And all with the hopes that these companies will employ more people. But now the other thing that's happening with tax reform is that they want to give corporations the ability to expense all of the costs of new equipment in the year that is purchased, right? So right now, all of that equipment has to be expensed over a certain amount of years. Okay. There is the Section 179. There is bonus depreciation right now. Okay, great. And I want to say it's up to 5 million. I don't know. I don't even know why I said that, because I don't have bonus depreciation on my mind right now. But the point is that you can deduct so much in the first year, and then you have to depreciate it over a certain amount of years, which means you deduct a certain amount every year. But with tax reform is going to allow corporations to expense the entire amount of new equipment when they purchase it. What does that mean? That means an increase in automation and a decrease in jobs. So if you have a repetitive job, if you have like a factory job, if you have a, where you stand there and scan it job, okay? All of these jobs are going to be going away because they will be replaced by automation. Okay, there's a Bloomberg study that was published in March, not a study, an article, and in the article it said 50 to 90% of jobs lost at American factories are attributable to productivity gains linked to automation. Okay, so I keep trying to tell my audience, and I hope that you will relate to the people that you are connected with. It's not an immigrant coming to America that is stealing your job. It is automation and the lack of education to keep up with the technology. Okay, so let me explain how this is going to further get uglier. Okay, let me explain that. So one of the things that's going away, that already went away for 2017, is the tuition and fees deduction. Okay, so that means if you go back to school, you would normally get some kind of tax break, right? Well, that's gone away. All right, and with the inability to what's the word? Okay, with doubling the standard deduction, there isn't going to be any more of a whole bunch of tax refunds either. So you don't get a tax break for going to school. There is the American Opportunity Credit that's still around, but that's I think that's refundable up to $2,500 per year for 4 years. But the tuition costs are rising. Tuition costs are rising, medical costs are rising. Okay, so that's going to mean less disposable income for you to go to school, for which you won't get a tax break anyway. But you need this education to keep up with the technology changes. Okay, so I want you to see this is like a big, one thing affects a little bit of everything. Okay, so I really want you guys to get this. So, going forward, when we're talking about tax reform, like everybody's getting all excited about, woo, we're reducing the corporate tax rate and all of this stuff. Just, you need to really understand the impact that that's going to have. Like, I'm not, I'm not a doom and gloom type person, but I really want to educate you on how this is going to work nationwide. Okay, please understand that, because we have already tried this one time with Reagan. Okay, it didn't work with Reagan and it ain't gonna work now. Okay, because you really can't tell corporations how to spend their money. You can give them all the tax incentives, you can make certain agreements or whatever, but by and large, you cannot tell corporations how to spend their money. And when they're going to a country like Mexico, where here in the United States, a factory worker, like for Carrier, for instance, the average person was making $23 an hour, where in Mexico, they might be making $3, $5 an hour. You can't compete with that. I don't care how many freaking tax incentives that you offer. So you guys really got to understand that, I've seen the people on social media talking about building the wall and keep the immigrants out and all this stuff. Listen, immigrants are not your problem. I promise you that. When it comes down to your job, immigrants are not your problem. The problem is automation and your lack of education with keeping up with technological changes. That's your problem. And so with that, it breeds hopelessness in the United States. Like, people feel like, oh my gosh, and it's even said in this article that this one lady, she's like, she just feels hopeless. Like, we're still in the greatest country that exists. Okay. I believe that there's lots of opportunity here. The question is, what are you going to do to take advantage of that opportunity? You got to get creative, guys. We have got to get out of the mindset that, just having your job is going to be a safe place for you, because it's not. Globalization has really thrown a wrinkle in the security of a job. And I mean, even the small internet marketer, right? Let's be honest. Even the small internet marketer will go and spend $3 an hour for a VA in the Philippines before they spend $10, $15, $25 an hour for a VA in the United States. Let's really be honest about that. Okay. So I really want you to understand that, trickle down economics, what is being sold as, what's going to be the great savior of jobs in America. I'm going to need for y'all to not drink that Kool-Aid. Just don't. Because history has shown that this does not work. The only thing that it's going to allow is corporations to have more money available to automate as much as possible, so they do not have to pay salaries. They do not have to offer benefits. They don't have to give vacation. They ain't got time for sick leave, any of that stuff. All right. As an employee, you are an expense. Their job is to keep expenses low. And if that means buying a machine that's going to replace 5 people, it's not about the people, it's about the bottom line. So you have to get creative about how you are going to really make your money. How are you going to make your money to survive in these coming years? How are you going to make your money? You've got to get creative. Okay. So yeah, that's what's happened with the Carrier deal. The plant still went to Mexico. Yeah. That's what happened. People are still losing their jobs. The next round of layoffs is going to be in January. At least it wasn't right before Christmas. You know, I don't know. That's one thing I never understood, like why companies lay off right before Christmas. Maybe there's some financial benefit to that, but I was like, why do they do that? That is the worst time to lay people off, in the holidays. It's just, to me, that was just mean, right? So I'm glad they're at least waiting until January to do that, to give those people a little bit more time. But the bottom line is a whole bunch of people still lost their jobs. They're going to be able to automate more, and more people are going to lose their manufacturing jobs. Okay. So that's it for today. So I really hope you got some ahas, you know, or something from this, just to, you know, to teach you how to listen to what's being said. Really listen to what's being said, not just, you know, that once over, but really listen to what's being said and listen to what's not being said. Okay. Figuring out what's not being said. So I really hope you got some value from that. Thank you guys so much for tuning into Home Biz Tax Talk. We're here Monday through Friday, 9 o'clock-ish. This is where you come to get your home business questions answered. All right. Have a great day, you guys. I'll see you next time. Bye.